Hi everybody, Gisele Grenier here from artplace.ca. Well, in today's little mini video, I'm going to be talking about colored pencil. Now, it's really hot outside, so I have the air conditioner going, so I apologize for any background noise. So for this particular demonstration, I'm actually going to be, I'm just going to put them all up here, I'm going to be covering 4 pencil types from 2 manufacturers. I'm going to be covering Derwent ColourSoft, Derwent Studio, Prismacolour Verithin, did I pronounce that right? Verithin, and the regular Prismacolour artist pencils. Okay, so with these, I basically chose, that doesn't belong there, I basically chose 3 pencils, and red, yellow, and blue. The unfortunate thing is with the Verithins, the art store didn't have yellow in stock, so I ended up getting stuck with orange. Okay, so I'm going to be going over these, and the purpose of this little mini video is just to basically show you the different looks that you get with the pencils just on regular sketch paper. Okay, so I'm going to put these down here. The first one will be the ColourSoft. Now, basically, you can think of all colored pencils as pencils with pigment that have some type of binder. And the binder is what makes it different from pastel pencils to colored pencils to watercolor pencils and all that stuff. So think of the colored pencil almost like a wax pencil. Okay, you also have oil pencils. You have the watercolor pencils, which makes the binder water soluble. Pigment in itself, it can be soluble with almost anything. Even pastel pencils, pastel pencils and colored pencils, you can dissolve as well. So where pastel pencils, the binder can be a type of clay. Okay, so the one thing is that with colored pencils is that you can layer color one on top of the other, and you can also burnish, which means to fuse everything together. So think of waxing a car. And when you polish and polish and polish and polish, it goes from a dull to a very high shine. Okay, so in here the ColourSoft, probably one of my most favorite pencils, because I can blend with it so easily. So I'm just gonna over here, and what I'll do first, I just want to make sure I'm not in the way here. What I'll do first, I'll just make some lines. Now, because I'm a wildlife artist, pet portrait artist, I like doing my touch push lift stroke, which is what I call my airplane stroke. The one thing with the ColourSoft is that you end up having to sharpen them very frequently because they dull out so quick. But they're really nice. Now, I've got drawing paper here, just sketching paper on top of a piece of masonite. Okay, so it'll be nice and hard. You don't want to do any formal color pencil work in a sketchbook with layers of paper underneath because it'll be too soft. So that's the line work, and then if we were to just do hatching are just straight lines going across. Okay, you can see it's starting to dull out. When you get all that speckle, that means your pencil's actually dulling out. It's only covering the top of the paper. Okay, so think of paper being like this, and then you've got all the pores in the paper, and a dull pencil will only cover the top because it's flat. A sharp pencil will actually get right inside. Okay, what I tend to do is sometimes I'll rotate the pencil, and this comes with experience. I rotate the pencil to get to a sharp part, and that'll buy me a few extra strokes. Okay, so with the hatching, you see that, quite soft. Adding 1 extra layer will intensify the color a little bit. Okay, cross hatching is going across, and basically what that does, not so much for this type of technique, it just builds up the depth in the color. If I were to go to yellow, And right here, now this is layering. I'm layering yellow on top of red, and I'm getting some type of orange. I personally don't like mixes of red and yellow to make orange because the oranges look kind of dirty. It depends on the red and it depends on the yellow, the type of orange you get. I actually like using pure orange when I'm painting, let's say with oils or acrylics. There we go. So that's a layer of yellow. Okay, we have some type of orange. Now if I were to take blue on top of this, well, blue is across the color wheel from the yellows and oranges. It's across. Again, depending on the type of blue, you're going to get mud. Okay, because they're complementary colors. It's going to dull down. But just to show you the layering effect, if I wanted to layer this, is now just to take blue and go over this color, and you get yet another color. So this is the layering technique where you layer and layer and layer colors on top of each other. Burnishing is the process of fusing everything together, and I like to burnish with a light color, because if you burnish with a dark color, you're going to end up with like with this one, a grayish blue. And burnishing, you usually press just a little bit harder. If I wanted to burnish this, let me just put a little bit more blue down. If I wanted to burnish this here, I would come in with yellow and press harder. The darker colors will kind of overpower, and then I can come in with a little bit more blue, and I can come with a little bit more red if I just want to repeat the layers. Okay, so that's how you burnish, by pressing the layers together. I prefer to burnish when it comes to a technique of doing something with a hard edge or something shiny. Something shiny being grapes, an eye, even lips, something like that. Whereas I kind of like leaving stuff flat like this when it comes to hair, anything with texture. That's how I determine whether to burnish something or leave it flat. So this is a ColourSoft. Okay, next, the Derwent Studio. So the Derwent Studio, let me just write that name down here, and I'll just kind of make a little, you probably can't see this, but it won't matter. So with the Derwent Studio, I'll do the exact same thing, is I'll make my strokes. This pencil is much finer, much harder, and even though I really like the detail of this pencil, I combine many pencils together when I'm working. I don't stick just to one. Same thing with paints. I don't stick to just one, because they all do different things. See, if I cross hatch, I can go this way. These ones will take me a little bit further because they are a harder pencil. Okay. Layering's the same way. It's exactly the same thing. I can take a little bit of yellow. I can press it even a little bit harder. So I like keeping these pencils as my detail. Like, I love doing detail with it because they are such a hard pencil. I can go back over. So this is the layering process. And go back over. So I'm going over with red and blue, red and blue, red and blue. And I can do this with the layers, and it's giving me purple. And each layer that I'm adding, I can press a little bit harder, which makes the colors more intense. Okay, so that's the Derwent Studio, a little bit harder of a pencil. And next, the Prismacolour. Let me just write down here. Oh, let's see. We're in Canada. We spell color differently. Let's see. The Prismacolour pencils made in Mexico. They are using the American spelling, Prismacolour, and then this will be the. They call theirs Grenier, and then the Verithin. Make sure I spell that right. You could. I don't use these I don't use these at all. So bear with me if I don't spell it right. Okay. Now, Derwent and Prismacolor are extremely popular pencils. It depends on where you are in the world as to, you know, whether they sell them in sets or open stock, but they are extremely popular. Personally, myself, I will not buy a pencil. I will not buy any product unless I can buy it in open stock. If they only sell it as a set, I will not buy it because I don't want to feel forced into buying a whole set if I want to replace one pencil. And a lot of times that's at the retail end, not the manufacturer end. So I'll do the same thing here. I find personally myself the Prismacolor Premier kind of slippery, more waxy feeling. Okay, and then I can layer as well. Now I can only layer with the, where did that pencil go? I'm going to layer with the yellow. Let me just make another, let me make some hatching lines here. So you can see these are softening out a little bit. Similar to the ColourSoft. These are a little bit harder than the ColourSoft. Add another layer. Oh, and Derwent, they are made in the UK. So I better mention that. They are very popular over there. Staedtler has colored pencils, but a very limited range. I don't use the Staedtler ones. Who else? Faber-Castell, another fantastic brand. I'm not able to get those in open stock from my local suppliers, so I don't use them. There we go. Not fond of the layering on that, but that's just me. That's just me. Let me just add a little bit more red to this. Let me burnish this a little bit more, see what we can get with the burnishing. The burnishing is very deep, but then that's the color that I'm using. A little bit of dust. Not as much dust as the ColourSoft, though. The ColourSoft had quite a bit of dust, and that's because it's a much softer pencil. So now if I replicate the same method here, if I just take the blue, I'll just work at the bottom. With these pencils, especially the Derwent ColourSoft and the Prismacolor Premier, especially these, you have to keep them sharp all the time. Okay, the Studio and Verithin, they tend to remain a little bit sharp because they're a harder pencil, so they stay sharp a little bit longer. And I'm going to go back over with red. So this is the burnishing layer. I'm layering and then adding more color. Layering, adding more color. Okay, so it works. So everything, the technique is the same. The resulting look is a little bit different. Okay, so there's the ColourSoft, there's the Studio, and there's the Prismacolor Premier. They also have a Scholar, but I didn't bother with those because they are student quality. And the only thing is they just have more binder in them. Now the Verithin, very hard, very, what color is this? Poppy red. Very, very hard pencil. So you can see the detail between the strokes, between this one and this one. Very, very hard. It's probably the hardest out of all four. Okay. And I'll do some hatching. The feel for me, the Verithin, is closest to an actual graphite pencil. And I like the feel of this one. I like the feel of that. Me with my old eyes, I don't like text on a pencil that's so small. That's the one nice thing with the ColourSoft, is that the text is huge on the pencil. And even on the Derwent Studio, the text is huge. The Prismacolor, the artist pencil, it's a little small where the color is, and that's just me. That's not everybody. That's just me. I like text that's really bold. but the hatching with the Verithin is actually quite nice. It's very nice. Let me do some cross hatching here. It's very pretty, but and it seems to be very close to a graphite pencil. And the effect that you'll get with these pencils will be different on the paper that you use, so keep that in mind. Now, because I don't have a yellow in the Verithin, I'm just going to go to orange, which is probably not the best color to use. I'll just orange right here. The Verithins, again, depending on where you buy, I only paid 80 cents a piece for these, so they're inexpensive. And at the same time, though, the color is not as intense compared to, let's get this Prismacolor red, this beautiful red. So if I just make these side by side, pressing nice and hard, and then do the same thing with the red. Okay, big difference in the intensity. Okay, and if I go with the blue, let me just, and this is ultramarine. I try to keep the colors the same. These are wonderful for detail. These are quite, because they're so hard, they're quite nice. Then if I layer that now with the red, and if I come back over with the blue, and you just keep layering like this, and you'll eventually get your purple. And then for burnishing, you just press much harder. Okay, now I have an extra of the Verithin, which is Indigo, which I like. This is nice for shadowed fur. It's blue. Typically it's almost like a blue-black. And I can go quite far with it before having to sharpen it. Okay. Burnishing with white is also possible. So I have a white. I can go over with white. And if I press hard, I will put a white film over everything. And then all I have to do is just basically go back over it with another pencil. And that just kind of fuses all the colors together. And I'll go over with red. You can actually get burnishers and blenders from some of the manufacturers, and they're colorless. That's basically up to you whether you want to use something like that. You know, it depends on who you talk to. Sometimes people say it's not necessary. Sometimes people say, well, yeah, it's great, but that's completely up to you. So I'm going to draw a single line. That's the ColourSoft. Artist Studio, Prismacolor, and Verithin. So you can see the differences in there. So you can tell very easily the ColourSoft and the Prismacolor Premier, okay, bigger pencils and softer, whereas the Derwent artist ones versus, or the Derwent Studio versus the Prismacolor Verithin, it's much harder and a much thinner line. But the Verithin, the color seems to be a little less intense. And again, it could be the pigment. I don't know. Okay, I just bought just the primary colors just for giving you an example. And then of course you've got the white, and you can layer. And I'm going across here like this just to show you the blending. The pigment is dragging on the ColourSoft and on the Prismacolor Premier. Okay, when I say dragging, that the pigment is a little bit softer on that. Not even moving on the Verithin because it's very, very hard. So when you pick up your pencils, depending on where you go shopping, is if they have open stock and some sharpened, the Prismacolors are never sharpened. They're always like this, but some art stores will actually have them sharpened so you can try them out. Just create little swatches, bring the paper, your favorite drawing paper, and all you need to do is just create little boxes like this. Just create little boxes like this, and that'll be the one layer. Then go across the other way, always with a sharp pencil. go the other way, and that basically will give you an idea about the opacity. Okay, how transparent the color is. If I do the same thing with the Verithin. Now, this is ultramarine in Derwent, or Prismacolor Premier, and this is ultramarine in the Verithin. Very, very different. And you just do this. Or was that no, that wasn't the Derwent. That was the Prismacolor. There we go. Okay, now if I do the same thing with the ColourSoft. Okay, and go across. All right, and I better move my pencils. I'm getting confused as to which ones I'm using. Move that there, and then get the artist one. I love this one. Again, ultramarine looks a little bit different. So the same manufacturer, the pencils look a little bit different. There we go. So do swatches like this when you're testing out your pencils, just to give you an idea of what they're going to give you. Again, try to bring the paper that you're using, because that's the only way to really test color swatches based on different manufacturers of a colored pencil. So I hope this little mini video helps you determine the differences between the Derwent ColourSoft, Derwent Studio, Prismacolor Premier, and Prismacolor Verithin. A little basic intro on the layering and burnishing, and how to create some color swatches for some pencils that you're looking at buying.